Picture a world where secrets aren't safe, where every step you take, every word you whisper, is tracked by a mind sharper than any machine. In the winter of 1873, in Milwaukee's German immigrant community, an 11-year-old girl named Emma Richtor became that mind. She could calculate the day of any date in history, memorize conversations verbatim, and count the steps between any two points in her neighborhood all in seconds. But what began as a marvel turned into a nightmare. Emma's uncanny ability to see patterns in human behavior exposed scandals, predicted deaths, and uncovered crimes that powerful men would kill to keep hidden. Her story isn't just a historical curiosity. It's a chilling reminder that some truths are too dangerous to reveal. Welcome to Dark Histories Unearthed, where we dive into the shadows of America's past to uncover stories that still haunt U.S. today. Hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and join us on this journey into a mystery that will grip you until the very end. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or state in the comments, because stories like Emma's could have happened closer to home than you think. Milwaukee in 1873 was a city on the rise. Its German Quarter a vibrant enclave of 8,000 immigrants who brought Bavaria's traditions to Lake Michigan's shores. Red brick breweries like Schlitz and Best churned out beer that fueled the city's growth, while wooden homes and beer gardens echoed the rhythms of the old world. Into this community came the Richtor family, Henrik, Greta, and their daughter, Emma, seeking a fresh start after a harrowing journey from Germany. Emma, born prematurely during a stormy Atlantic crossing, was a fragile child whose survival seemed miraculous, but as she grew, it became clear she was no ordinary girl. Her gray eyes, wide and unblinking, seemed to see the world differently, cataloging details with a precision that defied explanation. Emma's story is more than a tale of a gifted child. It's a window into how society grapples with those who don't fit its mold. In 1873, her abilities were seen as divine or demonic, but today, we might recognize them as signs of a neurological condition like savant syndrome or autism. Her life challenges us to question how we view brilliance, fear what we don't understand, and confront the hidden patterns in our own communities. As we unravel Emma's tale, we'll explore not just her predictions, but the human cost of her extraordinary mind and the secrets it exposed. That changed Milwaukee forever. In the heart of Milwaukee's German Quarter, Emma Richtor was a child who seemed to belong to another world. Born in 1861 during a stormy voyage across the Atlantic, she was 3 weeks premature, so small that the ship's doctor doubted she'd survive. Yet Emma defied the odds, growing into a slight, pale girl with enormous gray eyes that seemed to pierce through the ordinary. By age 4, her parents, Henrik and Greta, noticed her extraordinary talents. She could recite entire conversations she'd overheard days earlier, mimicking the speaker's accents and inflections perfectly. She counted everything: the stitches in Greta's embroidery, 340 doing a single pattern, the steps from their galena, street home to the bakery, 176, even the seconds between the brewery whistles signaling the workday start and end for 1,320 seconds, or exactly 72 minutes. Henrik, a brewmaster at Kellner's Brewery, was a practical man who valued precision in his craft. When he taught Emma basic arithmetic, she absorbed it with frightening speed, solving complex problems in her head faster than he could on paper. By age 6, she could calculate the day of the week for any date in history, say July 4, 1776, a Thursday, in seconds. Her memory was photographic, her calculations flawless. To Henrik, it was a source of pride, a sign his daughter might rise above their modest circumstances. Greta, however, felt a growing unease. Emma rarely cried or sought attention, preferring to sit silently, observing the world with an intensity that made adults uncomfortable. The German Quarter, a close-knit community of 8,000 immigrants, was a place where tradition and faith shaped daily life. Families worked together in breweries, worshipped at the small Catholic parish, and shared meals in beer gardens. Emma's abilities initially sparked curiosity. Neighbors marveled when she recited the exact number of barrels delivered to Kellner's Brewery in a week, 127, or calculated the cost of a neighbor's grocery haul to the penny, $3.47. Father Johann Kohler, the stout Bavarian priest, declared her gifts divine, a sign of God's favor in their New World community. He likened her to the biblical prophets, whose wisdom came from above. But not everyone shared his view. Older residents, steeped in old world superstitions, whispered of darker forces. Mrs. Brennan, An elderly widow who claimed her grandmother had seen witch trials in Germany crossed herself whenever Emma's gaze lingered too long. "Those eyes see too much," she'd mutter, clutching her rosary. The community's mix of awe and suspicion reflected a broader tension. In 1873, extraordinary abilities were often seen as either miracles or curses, with little room for scientific explanation. Emma's talents went beyond numbers. She noticed patterns in everything human behavior, daily routines, even the subtle shifts in how people spoke or moved. She could predict when the bakery would run out of rye bread. Based on the number of customers entering by noon of more than 23, they'd sell out by 2 p.m. Her mind was like a ledger, recording and analyzing data no one else noticed. To her, the world was a series of equations, each action a variable in a larger pattern. This ability, while remarkable, began to isolate her. Other children played games or told stories, but Emma preferred solitude. Watching from corners or windows, her peers found her strange, her silence unsettling. Parents began to steer their children away, whispering that Emma was too different. Yet Emma seemed unbothered, content in her world of numbers and observations. Her parents, however, felt the weight of the community's growing unease, sensing that their daughter's brilliance might come at a cost they couldn't yet fathom. The German Quarter of Milwaukee in 1873 was a place where community was everything. Families relied on each other for work, support, and survival in a new land. The brewery Schlitz, Best, and smaller operations like Kellner's were the heartbeat of the neighborhood, employing most men and shaping daily life. Women tended gardens, baked traditional breads, and gathered in sewing circles, while children played in the narrow streets between red brick buildings. Into this tight-knit world, Emma Richtor's abilities introduced a ripple of fascination and fear. At first, her talents were a source of pride. Neighbors invited her to perform parlor tricks, asking her to calculate dates or recite conversations. At a church picnic in 1872, Emma stunned the crowd by recalling every word of a heated argument between the brewery workers, down to their Bavarian slang, overheard a week earlier. Father Koller, a jovial priest with a thick accent, praised her as a child of divine wisdom, suggesting her gifts were a blessing for their community. He even brought her to the rectory to calculate tithe collections, marveling as she tallied figures faster than his ledger. But not everyone saw Emma as blessed. The older generation, raised on tales of witches and spirits, grew wary. Mrs. Margaret Brennan, a widow who lived 3 doors down, was particularly vocal. She'd heard stories of children with unnatural abilities in her native Bavaria, often linked to misfortune. No child should know so much, she told Greta at the market, her voice low. "It's not right. Those eyes counting everything." Her unease spread, especially among women who gathered at the bakery or laundry, where whispers about Emma grew darker. Some called her the gray-eyed seer, half in jest, half in fear. The community's mixed feelings reflected the era's limited understanding of extraordinary minds. In 1873, neurology was in its infancy, and conditions like savant syndrome were unknown. People turned to religion or superstition to explain what science couldn't. Father Koller's initial enthusiasm gave way to caution as Emma's abilities grew more pronounced. During a sermon, he spoke of gifts that must be tempered by humility. Glancing at the Richter's pew, Henrik, a practical man, dismissed the whispers as old-world nonsense, but Greta felt the sting of isolation. Neighbors who once shared bread now hurried past their house, avoiding eye contact. Emma herself seemed oblivious to the growing tension. She continued her observations, noting patterns in how neighbors moved or spoke. She'd tell her mother that Mr. Kruger always bought the loaves of bread on Fridays, but only one if he'd argue with his wife. These remarks, delivered with clinical precision, unnerved Greta, who began to wonder if her daughter's mind was a gift or a burden. The community's reaction wasn't just about Emma's abilities. It was about what they revealed about human nature, her knack for seeing through facades, counting steps. Tracking habits made people feel exposed, as if their private lives were no longer their own. This tension foreshadowed the darker turn Emma's talents would take. As winter loomed, the community's awe began to curdle into suspicion, setting the stage for events that would transform their view of the quiet girl. With the calculating eyes, the winter of 1872 to 1873 was one of the harshest in Milwaukee's history. Lake Michigan froze solid, a rare event that isolated the German Quarter in a cocoon of ice and snow. Families stayed indoors, conserving coal and food through bitter months. In this claustrophobic world, Emma's observations grew sharper and more unsettling. She spent hours by the kitchen window, watching neighbors with the same focus she applied to mathematical problems. Her journal, a leather-bound book, became a repository of her findings, charts of neighbors' routines, counts of their steps, and notes on their habits. On a gray February morning, Emma made her first chilling prediction as Greta packed Henrik's lunch. Emma looked up from her oatmeal and said, "Mr. Dietrich will die today at 14 p.m. Her voice was calm, as if stating a fact. She explained that Jan Dietrich, a brewery worker, had been drinking heavily from a brown bottle for 17 days, his steps uneven to 151 instead of 244, his behavior erratic. A 12% deviation in patterns signals a significant event within 72 hours, she said. Her gray eyes unblinking. Greta dropped the lunch pail, horrified. Henrik, pulling on his coat, scolded Emma for speaking of death, but her certainty unnerved. Him died at 14 p.m. Dietrich collapsed in the brewery's malt room, dead from heart failure caused by alcohol poisoning. The timing was exact, down to the minute. Word spread like wildfire through the German quarter. Some called it coincidence, but others saw Emma's prediction as proof of something unnatural. The Richtors faced whispers at church, neighbors avoiding their gaze. Father Koller, once her advocate, grew distant, warning Henrik that such gifts could be twisted by darker forces. Emma's predictions didn't stop. In March, she announced that Mrs. Anna Weber would be caught with brewery owner Ernst Kellner. She tracked Anna's Tuesday detours to Kellner's house 127 steps, and Kellner's late stays at the brewery 33 minutes longer. She even noted Mr. Weber's horse limping, predicting an early return. The next day, Weber found his wife with Kellner, leading to a violent confrontation that left Kellner injured and Anna battered. The scandal rocked the community, and Emma's role in foreseeing it fueled fear. Her journal grew thicker, filled with maps and charts tracking neighbors' secrets. Mrs. Schneider burying objects in a grid, Mr. Kruger's altered routes. These predictions weren't just accurate, they were invasive, exposing private lives. In a community that valued discretion, Emma's detached tone, treating human tragedy like a math problem, deepened the unease. Her parents began to fear not just for their daughter, but for what her mind might uncover next. Emma's story echoes other historical cases of extraordinary minds, offering a lens to understand her abilities. In 1781, Jedediah Buxton, an English laborer, stunned scholars by calculating vast sums in his head, despite little formal education. Like Emma, he saw the world through numbers, counting the steps in a mile-long walk to 1,112. His talents were celebrated, but he lived a solitary life, misunderstood by his peers. In 1888, George Bitter, the calculating boy, performed similar feats, solving complex equations before audiences in London. Unlike Emma, Bitter's abilities were harnessed for a successful career as an engineer, showing how society's response can shape a prodigy's fate. Closer to Emma's time, Sarah Jacob, the fasting girl of 1860s Wales, drew crowds for her supposed ability to live without food. Her case ended tragically when scrutiny revealed her claims were unsustainable, highlighting the dangers of exploiting unusual abilities. In the 20th century, Kim Peek, the inspiration for Rain Man, demonstrated Emma-like talents. He could memorize entire books and calculate dates instantly, but struggled with social interactions. Diagnosed with savant syndrome, Peek's case shows how neurological conditions can produce extraordinary skills alongside challenges. Modern science suggests Emma's abilities may have stemmed from autism or savant syndrome, conditions that enhance pattern recognition but can isolate individuals socially. These stories ground Emma's experience in a broader context. Her community's fear mirrors how society often reacts to those who defy norms, celebrating them until their gifts expose uncomfortable truths. Today, we'd approach Emma with curiosity, perhaps offering support to channel her talents. Her story reminds us that brilliance can be a double-edged sword, especially when it reveals what others wish to hide. By spring 1873, the Richtors were pariahs in their own community. Emma's predictions, Dietrich's death, the Weber-Kellner scandal had turned curiosity into fear. Neighbors who once greeted Greta warmly now crossed the street to avoid her. Children were forbidden from playing near the Richter house, and shopkeepers served the family with curt efficiency. Henrik's brewery colleagues grew distant, conversations halting when he entered the room. Ernst Kellner, still smarting from His beating banned the Richtors from brewery socials, a devastating blow in a community where such events were central. Emma's journal became a symbol of her isolation. Its pages, filled with charts and numerical sequences, documented neighbors' habits with unsettling detail. She noted the Schneider family's Sunday burials, Mr. Kruger's Wednesday detours, even Father Coller's extended prayers. Greta, catching glimpses of the journal, felt a growing dread, afraid to read what her daughter might have calculated about their own family. Henrik confronted Emma, asking how she knew such intimate details. "I observe everything, Papa," she replied, her voice mechanical. People follow patterns, like numbers. Her detachment treating human lives as data chilled her parents. Dr. Friedrich Mueller, the community's physician, examined Emma and concluded her abilities were neurological, not supernatural. Trained in Berlin, he'd seen cases of unusual mental capacities, but Emma's precision was unprecedented. "Her mind is like a machine," he told Henrik, urging caution but offering no clear answers. The Richter's isolation reflected a deeper truth. Emma's abilities exposed the fragility of social bonds. In a community built on trust, her knack for uncovering secrets made her a threat. Neighbors feared not just her predictions, but what she might see in their own lives. The Richtors, once proud of their daughter, now lived in a world of whispers and closed doors, wondering how long they could endure. On May 1, 1873, Emma revealed her most explosive discovery. Sitting at the kitchen table, she opened her journal and showed Henrik a series of charts and maps for 26 months. "I've tracked 43 adults," she said, her voice clinical. 7 men meet every Wednesday at midnight in Kellner's brewery basement. They're stealing $47,000. Her evidence was staggering. Wilhelm Weber, Franz Kellner, Hans Zimmermann, Otto Steinberg, Klaus Brennan, Gustav Wolf, and Hermann Kruger, led by Ernst Kellner, were embezzling from the brewery. Emma's calculations were meticulous. She'd noted discrepancies in beer production versus deliveries, tracked the men's secret routes avoiding main streets, and observed their unexplained spending. Weber's $300 furniture, Steinberg's overseas packages. Most chillingly, she'd seen Ernst Kellner watching their house at night, suspecting she knew his secret. "The probability of action against us is 84% within 72 hours, she said, her gray eyes steady. Henrik, horrified, shared the journal with Dr. Mueller, who recognized the danger. The theft ring was a bombshell, implicating respected men in a crime that could ruin the community. Emma's ability to uncover it through observation alone was both brilliant and terrifying. Her detachment treating a criminal conspiracy like a math problem underscored the growing gulf between her and the human cost of her discoveries. Emma's revelation put the Richtors in mortal danger. Ernst Kellner, a powerful man, had the means to silence them. Dr. Mueller, stunned by Emma's journal, arranged for the family to flee to New Ulm, Minnesota, under cover of an emergency job offer at a brewery. That night, May 2, 1873, they left Milwaukee, Emma's final prediction ringing in Henrik's ears. "In 6 months, the theft will be exposed. 3 men won't survive." In New Ulm, Henrik found work, and Greta tried to rebuild their lives. Emma, unchanged, worked with Dr. Hermann Weiss, a mathematics professor who saw her abilities as a scientific marvel. Her prediction proved true. By November, federal investigators exposed Kellner's scheme, arresting him and uncovering the deaths of Weber, Steinberg, and Kruger's suicide accident, and suspected poisoning. Emma's journal, left with Mueller, revealed she'd tracked dozens of families, her methods eerily similar to modern profiling. The escape saved the Richtors, but it couldn't erase the cost of Emma's brilliance. Her ability to see patterns had saved them, but also destroyed their home in Milwaukee, leaving them to start anew in a world that might never fully understand. Their daughter died in New Ulm. Emma's work with Dr. Weiss offered hope that her abilities could be channeled constructively. By 1875, college records noted her statistical prowess, but the Richtors relocated again, likely to protect her. In Milwaukee, the German quarter recovered from the scandal, but Emma's story became folklore, a cautionary tale of a girl who saw too much. Father Coller, shaken, questioned whether some knowledge was too dangerous. Dr. Mueller's final letter in 1874 noted that Emma's journal predicted events beyond the theft ring, disturbing investigators with its precision. Her disappearance from history suggests a deliberate choice to shield her from exploitation. Modern parallels, like savant syndrome, suggest Emma's mind was a marvel, Misunderstood in her time, her legacy challenges us to balance our extraordinary abilities with empathy for those who bear them. Emma Richtor's story is a haunting reminder that brilliance can both illuminate and destroy. Her mathematical mind exposed truth's adultery, theft, death that her community couldn't bear. In 1873, they saw her as divine or demonic. Today, we'd recognize her abilities as neurological, perhaps savant syndrome or autism. Her tale teaches us to approach extraordinary minds with understanding, not fear, offering support to harness their gifts. It also warns us about the fragility of privacy. Emma saw patterns in human behavior that betrayed secrets, much like modern algorithms track our lives. Her story urges us to guard our personal boundaries and question what lies beneath our community surfaces. What do you think of Emma's abilities? Have you known someone with a mind like hers? Share your thoughts below, along with your city or state. If this story chilled you, like, share, and subscribe for more mysteries. The truth is often hidden in plain sight, waiting for a mind to calculate its secrets.